So hello people. Today we are here with my friend Jan Calabuig Sans, who is a violinist and I'm a pianist. As you remember, we did one more live stream before. And today we are gonna talk about Ludwig van Beethoven. We will talk related to his life. We will do a short introduction to his biography, and then we will have a short discussion about him. So Ludwig van Beethoven was born to a musical family in Bonn in 1770 on the month of December. And Ludwig van Beethoven's actually grandfather, who holds the same name as the famous Beethoven, was a known musical name in Bonn. He was a well-known musician, and he wanted his son to be a successful musician, but this career didn't turn out well. And in the end, Johann, Beethoven's father, turned out to be an alcoholic. And with this frustration, he was very abusive to his son, Ludwig van Beethoven, to become, in a way, child prodigy, in a way, another Mozart.
So basically, we can see that Beethoven's father was just a frustrated man and a mediocre musician and a horrible father who was completely an alcoholic with what seemed to have no morals. There are all sorts of stories of the sort of beatings he gave to Beethoven and also to his wife, and which is also, it is very clear that it is about the career, because it is also said that he did not beat in such a way any of the siblings of Beethoven. He had
he had two. He had two siblings, Beethoven, right? Two brothers who were Caspar and Nicholas, and they were three. They were three children.
And they did not receive such beatings, which after became a bit a point of argument between Beethoven and the siblings. But
yeah, and we should not forget that Ludwig van Beethoven was the eldest brother of all the three,
which after made huge responsibilities after his both mother's death and father's death, which he used
more
to share
from more from his mother's death, because when his mother died, of course, also his father even became more alcoholic, which made him really irresponsible from the whole family, and he had to take care actually of the whole family, his brothers and his father as well. So
16 or 18, Beethoven took not only emotional,
16, I think,
financial care of his whole family.
And he joined the orchestra. He joined the court orchestra, actually learning viola learning viola in like a week, just in order to make a living. And after doing that, he focused more on his compositions. And I mean, he had to turn back from Vienna from such a promising career that he was going to have. I mean, the first time he went, because of the death of his mother. I mean, because his mother got sick, so he
went to Vienna, and it is said in many sources, but this is also really not known. This is really annoying about composers, that there is a lot of misinformation or just people write.
Nowadays, it's actually such a problem, because on the internet, just for example, one thing we had to search, there are really 3 dates appearing, and you never know which one is the true one. So
so basically there's different informations about whether Mozart and Beethoven, but it is possible, and it is said that Beethoven, since he admired Mozart music, wanted to be a student of Mozart, but had to turn back from Vienna because his mom had gotten very sick. And so
I think this information is for sure true, but we are not really sure of if he actually met and played for him, right? Yeah. So there's a saying that he played for him, and Mozart was truly amazed, but we're not really sure about that.
But Mozart at the time was 31, I think.
Maybe it's like 1 year prior, before his death.
More, I think it's like 3 or 4 years, and he was already sick and was still composing. So I doubt that he really take out his time to listen to like a prodigy.
Mozart died in 1791, and when Beethoven came back to Vienna, it was 1792.
92?
Yeah, so just 1 year after he died, like second time Beethoven went.
No, I thought you meant the first time. The first time was
no. First time was, I think, let me check once more, 1787.
Yeah,
so 4 years prior to Mozart's death. Yeah, interesting story.
Actually, and then interesting to know what sort of big names and celebrities Beethoven throughout his time, mainly because in Vienna, since he went to live also in Vienna, it was the capital completely of both music and art. So and
it stayed like this for long, right?
Yeah, every important figure was there. So it is also interesting to look at who he met and who not. Who is for sure 100% he met, since he was his pupil, is Haydn, whom Beethoven has.
Czerny.
Yeah, of course, I mean, it was his pupil, Beethoven's
Yeah.
pupil,
Yeah.
not Haydn's pupil.
Yeah.
Beethoven has said to not really like Haydn as a teacher, to respect very much his music, but as a teacher,
For his counterpointing teaching. Right?
Yeah.
For his counterpoint teaching. Because
Yeah.
Beethoven was more, I mean, he already had his own knowledge in the ways that he constructed in a way. I don't know how true is that, but yeah, he, from what I know. And he didn't really like Haydn's teaching. And at some points, for example, when he didn't like his trio, the famous story, he thought that maybe Haydn is trying to kind of put a barrier to Beethoven's career because he's jealous of him and these kind of things. So yeah, this is also
But
one thing.
Beethoven has said to not quite enjoy Haydn's teaching more because of the lack of engagement, on a sense, with the student, and lack of strictness also with the way of teaching.
Mhm.
So,
I see, yeah.
thought he
And
was.
what about the other names like Schubert?
From Schubert, it is sure that Schubert very much admired both Beethoven and his music. There is this also. I mean, it's clear that he had a lot of respect. Whether Beethoven knew Schubert, there are few sources which say that Beethoven did Schubert and he did come across his leader, and I think even some of his string quartets. But again, there is a lot of unreliable information. Even a very clear example of unreliable information is a biography about Beethoven, which was very much taken in account for a long time, which is Anton Schindler's biography, who was the secretary of Beethoven from 1815, I think, yeah, 1815. And he published a biography of Beethoven in 1840.
Mhm.
And he was his secretary and he lived with him, took this as a very sort of reliable knowledge. After checking properly all what is said, and to just believe what is assured by
So,
all as
so when
well.
they compared the real information with what he said, yeah.
Exactly, they found that a great quantity of what was written was either exaggerated or written after Beethoven's death. So even sources like this, or it's the same with Schubert, the amount of unreliable information they have from people like Schubert and all
Yeah.
these.
Yeah, it's crazy how things can be really unreliable and not even come across people's notice because it's said to be trustable in this way also, source of information.
That it's someone trustable because it's someone close to
Yeah.
them, but like people like nowadays like very much to lie. So
Yeah. So actually, one more aspect to Beethoven is that he was also a great pianist, and his improvisations were, according to many listeners, breathtaking, just as lists, you know. So we
and
can
all
say
very quick success he had in Vienna second time he went, and he became successful firstly as a
as a
pianist.
pianist, yeah. And then actually he wanted to change this because he was not yet famous as a composer. So his plan was actually to change this wave of people that this fame that he has on being a pianist to also being recognized as a great composer. So he
And
tried to
worked out.
plan everything. Yeah, it worked out. The plan was successful somehow. Yeah. So also, I mean, having such a career as a pianist and as a composer, he, in order to compose in peace and compose what he wanted to compose, he had his patrons, and with the financial support they gave him, he was actually more free on his work to compose whatever he wanted.
Very often, patrons would offer money in order to so that you would make the composition they want to hear or dedicate them a composition. Beethoven could often just decide not to do so.
Yeah, because for him, it's usually that also he said it said that he really didn't care about how uncomfortable it is for the instrumentalist to play his works, but he just wrote the music because it's how it came to him, the music. So yeah, but even though wrote, he dedicated some of his works, many of his works, to Rudolph, right?
So Archduke Rudolf was extremely important for Beethoven, since because thanks to Rudolf, Beethoven was able to truly dedicate himself to just composing. And Rudolf, what he did was he convinced both princes, Prince Kinsky and Prince Lovkowski, to pay an annual amount of florins to Beethoven, together with himself. Of course, they paid him 5,000, I think, or 4,000 florins per year, which allowed Beethoven to compose. The thing is that up to the year 1813, both Kinsky and Lovkowski had to stop giving. One because he died because he fell off a horse, and the other one because he got bankrupt.
Yeah.
So
Just the role, yeah, it's really actually this kind of information is. I feel it's really interesting to know these kind of things because it's really small details, but actually change the. It really makes us comprehend how and why a composer was being able to be flexible in certain ways and certain ways not, and be to feel free to compose whatever he wants. So, and Rudolf, as we said, he was this important figure. He was also the pupil of Beethoven, actually, and he was a great friend. Also, that's the thing. Yes, I mean, for example, he had, from what I know, a collection of Beethoven's works at his house. These works, all these manuscripts didn't really survive, but he really kept all this at his house. And Beethoven really dedicated a lot of works to Rudolf. And
a collection only with the works he got dedicated. Such works like Missa Solemnis or the Crucifix or Les Adieux or the Hammerklavier Sonata.
We don't know, actually. I maybe have to check
No?
that, but from what I know, it's all the works that Beethoven had. I mean, almost. I don't know how that's possible.
I'm talking about the ones that he got, that Beethoven dedicated to him.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, many of the works Beethoven dedicated. The concertos, the piano concertos, all the cadenzas were apparently dedicated to Rudolf. And even Rudolf made the premiere. I mean, not the Vienna premiere. The Vienna premiere of the fifth concerto was made by Carl Czerny, his other great student. But the little premiere, when they used to do these kind of premieres in little houses to present the pieces, was done by Rudolf playing at the piano. So it's quite interesting to know. Yeah, so here we can see that really there's a commissioner that was a true friend of Beethoven, was a pupil of Beethoven, and was a important person for Beethoven that Beethoven really dedicated most of his works to. So here's an exception.
Actually, a last quite important meeting, sort of, which I got really curious to research not long ago, was the one between Goethe and Beethoven. To my surprise, they did. Such important figures would likely meet, and more knowing that Beethoven admired Goethe, and he was 20 years younger, and he also wrote Egmont on Goethe's text, so probably would very much like to meet him. And they did meet in 1812 after trying to sort of say to each other that they would meet for 2 years. Beethoven sent a few letters and hit the score of Egmont to Goethe. But when they did meet, it was not exactly the most successful meeting. The famous quote from Goethe, which now I cannot remember exactly, but it was something like Beethoven has reasons to detest the world, but he does not make it any better. And then he also admires. He was very surprised by his talent, and he's a very wonderful musician. But it was not a very agreeable meeting.
And Beethoven, what about thoughts of Beethoven towards Goethe?
That still he paid a lot of respect to Goethe, since Beethoven always really loved Goethe. But he did complain about him in a letter, saying that he became hypocritical, I think, when the aristocrats came in, because he bowed his head when the shine comes. So meaning basically when the rich people were there, he sort of and forgets his own ideas. So he was complaining about this.
And Beethoven, I mean, expectably, why Beethoven would? Beethoven would be really the person to get annoyed from these things because, he's this kind of person who is going for humanism, who got really mad at Napoleon when he declared himself as emperor. So it's really expectable why, especially Beethoven, would get annoyed from this kind of attitude. Yeah.
It is said that Beethoven was also extremely interested in matters of maybe politics or philosophy, like when he came across the Enlightenment era and seemed to argue about it a lot in bars, for example.
Yeah, and also I think coming from such an oppressive family due to his oppression from his father, I think he really found himself by really going for freedom, like really this oppression made him really go for his own ideals even more exaggeratedly, a bit more aggressively towards it, like more intentionally, you know. So I think this also really, we can always feel this in his music as well, you know. Everything, it's said that
idea of-
everything, yeah, he does is intentional, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I think his idea of freedom really goes further also than just something political in a sense. He just
Yeah.
aims to go further than that and truly free himself into allowing what he would think comes from up. Not necessarily, I guess, God, but
Yeah, he has a sense of freedom where he doesn't want anyone really oppressing him in any way, I feel. So he wants to go for his own thing and he doesn't want anyone stopping him from it. So
does not seem so. I think we might be done.
hopefully you guys learned something from here and hopefully you enjoyed.
Or hopefully you can also learn something from the audience.
Yeah, actually, that's another perspective that I didn't think about. So thank you very much and see you everyone. See you, man.